listeners. This is Gene Verso. I'm on a very special episode of the Waffle Press podcast. Well, it's not special as in deals with very serious subject matter, but it's an interview. So there you go. And I'm joined by a friend of the show whose identity has to remain secret. So this is a top secret interview here with Challenge Guy from the Infographics Show.
Hey, Gene.
How you doing?
See you.
How you doing?
All right.
Cool.
Feeling a lot better now that the fundemic is finally coming to an end, maybe.
Oh man, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. The first time I've seen you in person. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us a little bit about the Infographics Show?
So I believe the show's been around for like 7-8 years or so. I came on board about 3 years ago now, just as a writer, and then about 2 years ago, I think they pitched me the idea of doing these challenges, trying to get on like the challenge craze on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of adventurous, so I was down for it. The girlfriend not so much, because she has to suffer the consequences of living with these challenges.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun, and we've been doing them ever since.
And what can you tell us about the newest challenge? Just going right into it. It's something that we've been a fan of, I guess, or just kind of like our interest. Because just knowing you, we've talked about a certain cryptid subject matter, and that's most important because it's not paranormal, like you were telling me. It's cryptid, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the latest challenge was it was actually a fan suggestion. It was hunt Bigfoot, and I actually might have had my first Bigfoot encounter for the show. I think it was 1.5 years ago. I can't remember when, but it was when I did the forest survival challenge, which was, I think it was spent 72 hours in the forest.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like helping teach some survival strategies and stuff. And one of the nights I heard these weird screams and yells, and I know what cougars sound like in the wild, and I know they can sound like screaming women, but this wasn't it at all. And when the episode aired, a bunch of people were like, "Oh, you heard Bigfoot," and they emailed us links to like recordings of Bigfoot screams and stuff, and I was like, "Oh crap, yeah, that's what I heard." Like I heard a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this challenge. It was basically go out there and try to find Bigfoot. We were originally going to spend a week out in the Oregon wilds. I can't say where because really don't want people to sort of copycat because it was we were thick out there. Like it was deep. It was a place where there was an emergency. Like you're on your own.
Yeah.
So we wanted to keep the location kind of secret, but also it is an area with a lot of reported activity, and there is another group that researches out there, and so we didn't want to like put their spot on blast, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were going to spend a week out there originally. The weather though got really, really bad. Like it started dipping below freezing because we were high up on the mountain.
Yeah.
And we had to pull the plug. I think it was on the 4th day. The weather was getting too gnarly.
What time of the year was it?
It was late May.
Oh, okay, it was late May.
Yeah.
Dang. And that's like, man, yeah, because it's like, for a lot of like expeditions, like there's a lot of stuff can't control or.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking of The Revenant, where they were just like waiting for like things to get like better and just like spending millions of dollars. Not an expedition, but yeah, I mean, look at that movie where I think like Tom Hardy put the director in a headlock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's like a shirt. But so like the expedition, so Sasquatch, as some people don't know, is it like you like refer to it as Bigfoot or like Sasquatch because it's got so many names.
Honestly, like just I'll use common parlance with most people. Like I'll just say like Bigfoot, even though it sounds super silly.
Yeah.
But at this point, Sasquatch sounds silly too. Yeah. But I like. Do you watch Survivor Man? Les Stroud.
I haven't seen Survivor
Man. Les Stroud did a whole series of like hunting Bigfoot, Survivor Man, Bigfoot, and he said something that's kind of stuck with me a bit, where he's like, "Oh, I use the term Sasquatch instead of Bigfoot because it's more respectful to the indigenous cultures and stuff." So I'm trying to switch to the term Sasquatch because I think he's right.
Yeah, or you could just call it like Squatch.
Yeah, or the Squatch.
But yeah, like how did you like prep for this? Because again, like going out into the wilderness, like it's not something like for the faint of heart. It's not something you could just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go camping. Like, I mean, you could go to like Joshua Tree or stuff, but you always want to go prepared. Like, what did you do to like prepare for this?
So yeah, I guess this will be part me telling how I prepared and also part word of warning for anyone looking to do the same thing. So when we started putting this together, once we got the challenge, I started putting a team together, and one of my really good friends is also a former military, big outdoors guy. I brought him on board, and then I had to do a ton of research on Sasquatch before this, and one of the places that I really went to for like expertise was BFRO. I read from some people, talked to some people who were like, yeah, you really want a composition of your team that's 50% female, 50% male, because Sasquatch find men intimidating.
Okay.
Like they find male figures intimidating, and so they might not make themselves known in your presence if the group has too many men, which I guess kind of makes sense if you. I'm telling you, I must have read and listened to thousands of reports to try to really build a picture of this creature.
Yeah.
And you find like the common theme throughout is that groups with large amounts of men don't tend to have very high quality encounters. And I think it makes total sense if this is a territorial animal. The male of the species typically is the one that's always facing off, against the other males of the species.
Yeah.
So I brought two of my girlfriends on board to make it an even 50-50 ratio. And those two brought no survival skills to the equation at all.
Yeah.
But I knew that they were tough chicks, and I knew that they're good people.
Yeah, they could adapt to it.
Yeah. And they did.
Yeah.
I mean, we faced some pretty gnarly crap out there.
Wow.
And I guess that's the part of my word of advice on this is like, we went into it right from the bat thinking of it as a survival situation.
Yeah.
Like, hunting Bigfoot, sure, but like we were prepared for survival. So we had backups of everything. Every time we left camp to go on these, really long hikes, we brought along enough food, water for 2 days in case we got lost. We had long range radios to keep in contact with each other. We had cold weather gear, wet weather gear. And we ended up, like, Oregon's crazy. We ended up one day, literally within the span of 2 hours, we went from boiling hot to sleet to rain. Then we got hail, and then we got bright sunshine again in the span of 2 hours.
Wow.
Like, we were so high up that the weather just kept blowing right past us.
Yeah, because it's like nuts. Elevation, all that. Yeah, I've never been to Oregon, but...
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you go up in the mountains, you better be ready.
Gotta have, like, your winter coat, you gotta have, like, your winter boots and everything.
And summer gear, all on the same hike. Like, it's crazy.
It sounds like, quite a, like, utility belt of things to just prepare for. Can you tell us just how far your interest with the Sasquatch goes? Like, I mean, getting a little personal, like, but, like, what interests you about it? Because it's, like, I don't know, it gets kind of lumped into, like, things like UFOs or, like, ghosts, anything, I guess, like, people find, like, just, like... Weird, yeah. And it's, I'll go out on the limb and say, like, it's not that weird. Like, it's just a giant...
It isn't, but it sort of is. It's weird in the sense that, like, you have this enigma of a huge creature, described being between 600 pounds to 800 pounds, sometimes even bigger than that.
Yeah.
Which, is unknown to science. Rather, I'm not going to say it's unknown to science, and I don't like when people say that. It's unacknowledged by science.
Yeah. Kind of like UFOs, which are now just, like, the government's like, oh, yeah, they're there.
Yeah, they
They're-
just did an episode on UAPs now is what they're called.
Oh, is that the correct term?
Yeah, now the
Okay.
correct term is UAPs.
Gotcha.
But it's weird, but it's not also. Like, I think it's a dissettling thought to think about something with that much intelligence, you know, kind of lurking in our woods.
Yeah.
As far as my interest, you know, I lived when I was a kid. I lived for 3 or 4 years in Alaska, and like deep Alaska. And you know, I heard weird things, and there was always stories around, you know. But I guess that kind of sparked my imagination a bit. As I got older, though, what really kind of drew my attention was like, you've got these tracks popping up all over North America.
Yeah.
Even overseas, like you have these human-shaped tracks, which are oversized, popping up all over North America, Russia, China, even in the like New Zealand and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just kind of started thinking, like, if this is all a hoax, like, why are so many of these tracks being found all over the place? And even more importantly, why do these tracks have, like, morphological features that are anatomically correct to a great ape species? You know, you've got dermal ridges, you've got evidence of a mid-tarsal break.
Yeah, like you're seeing really specific like traits of like an animal in the
exactly.
Yeah.
So who's hoaxing this?
Yeah.
Like who's going out there? Because I saw the when that one guy died who admitted to hoaxing footprints in Northern California. He had those big footprints that he showed, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the Bigfoot." And like he had, you know, these wooden footprints that were just wood, like they were just flat wood. So like there's those hoaxes, absolutely. But like, who is traveling around just North America, leaving these very detailed tracks that require anatomical knowledge of a great ape to fake convincingly?
Yeah, it's like who has time on their hands to like do that shit, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I told the girl because she's not a believer, and I told her, I was like, listen, like at this point, if there's someone hoaxing this all across the U.S., the hoaxing phenomenon is as incredible as if this animal is real. Like,
I would say even like higher, you know? It's like there's like a secret society of people that just...
You have like a reverse Bruce Wayne. There's a billionaire out there that's like hoaxing Bigfoot convincingly all across North America.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems more ridiculous than, you know, just a giant primate, you know?
Yeah.
Do you ever watch the Bob Gimlin footage?
Yes.
Yeah, and because I think that for me is probably my earliest like memory of like Sasquatch, like just seeing it on cable or like some sort of like random series. And if you like watch that, it's just like, you know, it's like it's shaky. It's like, you know, he's doing his best to like focus, and the ape or the Sasquatch just like looks at him, acknowledges him, and just keeps walking.
Yeah.
You know. Like you would do any other animal, and like I don't know, people have like, because it's like what, like a 16mm camera, something like that.
Yeah, I believe it was 16mm that he shot it on.
Yeah, and I don't know, people like have discredited that, or not discredited that. People like push it away by saying it's just like a guy in a costume. I don't know. He was like, I don't know, had an ape costume, but like people have like looked at that and examined it and like shown that like the creature has like breasts. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like a female Sasquatch. And it's just like, again, the amount of time and effort someone would have to do to like put that kind of costume and then include like anatomy of like a female creature. You know, how do you feel about the Bob Gimlin footage?
You know, I'm so glad you said that about the breasts, because when I heard about the kickback on the Bob Gimlin film, I've always just thought to myself, okay, you're going to go out and you're going to fake a Bigfoot video, right? Which plenty of people have done.
Yeah.
Why at what point in your planning does it enter into your mind, hey, we're going to make this a female Bigfoot and we're going to give her visible breasts? Why would that level of detail enter your mind? Like, I just...
Yeah, it's just weird.
it's not that it's impossible. It's just it's so improbable that someone would be like, "Hey, let's fake a female Bigfoot."
It's really specific, though. It does remind me of a little off topic. I was going to say in Howard the Duck with the duck tits.
Oh yeah,
it's like that. Like
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, because I don't know if you saw that the Hulu series, and it's not really about Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And like Bob Gimlin gets interviewed, and he seems like the nicest dude ever. Like there's nothing really like shady about him. I really don't think like he would go out of his way. Like, and it's like I don't think he's really like he's not like a millionaire. Like I don't think he really profits off of like his footage. I'm sure he goes to like cons or
I'm sure now, but back then he probably didn't profit much.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I just really think about like the logistics of what goes into a hoax.
It's that choice to make it a female that puts up a red flag for me. Like who does that?
Yeah.
Who even thinks of making a hoax be a female? That's just so weird.
Yeah. And I guess going off of that, because we're talking about like specifics and kind of like the logic, can you clarify what separates Sasquatch from like the paranormal? Because we did mention that, and why do you think it got lumped into the paranormal? I think we probably discussed this, but just to reiterate to like a listener right now.
I think the reason why Bigfoot's been lumped in with the paranormal is because it is unacknowledged, and it is a fantastical claim to have seen a Bigfoot. Like it's so out of the range of ordinary. So I think that's why people also the fact that it's been presented so poorly in media. Like, I'm sorry, but hunting Bigfoot is a joke show.
Yeah, is that the one with Bobo?
Yeah, and I love Bobo. I really, truly love Bobo.
Like as a personality, or like just as like he seems like a.
He seems like such a great guy because I've seen him on other shows too.
Yeah,
like, he seems like he's exactly the type of guy I want to go out to the woods and hunt Bigfoot with.
Yeah.
But the show just. And it's not just their show; it's all these shows. Like all these shows go like, "Oh, let's go," like a foot into the woods and hunt Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then, oh, the night's over, the show's done. Like,
yeah.
That's why we went out. Our plan was to go for a week deep. Like we were going out, and I even told the team, I was like, a week's not enough. Like you're trying to find a very rare, elusive animal.
Yeah.
You need to spend months out there.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't know, like people that are looking for like endangered species, things like that. I'm sure. Yeah,
there's a team in Russia that spent 2 years trying to get footage of a Siberian a tiger out there. Like that's exactly the amount of time and commitment that's needed, but nobody's putting that amount of effort forth.
Yeah.
So of course the animal remains elusive. As far as what separates it, what actually separates it from paranormal, in my opinion, it's just the amount of evidence. People have a critical misunderstanding of the evidence, I feel like. You have tracks being discovered all over North America, oftentimes in extremely remote places. These tracks will very often have, again, those morphological features of a great ape, which would just require so much knowledge to fake.
Yeah.
More impressively, and what we found ourselves when we were out there, these tracks have a depth, like a soil impression that's so deep that it requires hundreds and hundreds of pounds to achieve.
I was looking at some of the footage that you were posting, and like it was just like, was it like the apples? What was the thing with that? Like the apple, like it was pressed in, or am I misremembering?
Oh no. You're referring to the Apple incident.
Yeah.
The Apple incident was its own thing.
Okay.
The prints that I did post, those things, I mean, you can see in the short videos that I posted that I cannot match the depth of those prints.
Yeah, like who's strong enough to do that?
Yeah, like seriously, we stomped down as hard as we could, and we couldn't even come close to making an impression. And yet this thing just left these giant foot-shaped impressions. One of them was right in the middle of our camp after we left one day.
So going off of that, like that's evidence right there. People have found, good enough prints. I'm sure like some sort of like print could have been like misidentified.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you like show that to any like skeptics to be like, okay, this is scientific evidence of something. If you don't want to say it's like a Bigfoot, like a bat, like it's too much for you. It has to be evidence of something, right?
Yeah, and that was my whole point in the episode that we shot. I actually end with that. I end the episode by saying, I'm not saying that we discovered evidence of Sasquatch because that'd be really irresponsible of me.
Yeah.
I didn't personally see the animal that left these tracks, that tore these trees down, that made all these noises around us. But what I did find evidence of is a phenomenon that itself is creating effects that are very commonly linked to Sasquatch. So something exists out in the Oregon woods that is recreating all the most commonly reported phenomenon of Sasquatch.
Yeah, it can't be. This can't be something random. Because I was gonna say also that there is evidence and as a researcher, there's ethics, right?
Like as far as the way you conduct the research and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just claimed okay, we found evidence of Sasquatch, don't want to be doing that because there's something skeevy or
yeah, you don't want to be a faker.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I also told the show when we did it, because obviously we are under the pressure of creating a show. We have to create something entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's the same pressure, TV shows are under, which is why you should always watch them, with a grain of salt. And I told them, I was like, listen, I'm not going to fake anything. If we go out there and we find nothing, I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to fake something for the sake of the show.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, we won't have a challenge, period.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah, it's, I think especially now people are very leery about, at least people that take it seriously, about hoaxing anything. I don't know if you know about Todd Standing, but he's been accused of being a big hoaxer. It's really hurt his reputation, and it's really hurt any evidence that he's put forward ever since he was accused of being a hoaxer. Whether he is or not, I have no idea.
Yeah, just the fact that's staying on his record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was going to say that, for a lot of the Bigfoot shows, some are entertaining, but that's the thing, though. They're made for, entertainment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, it's to be binge-watched on, Netflix. It's Netflix. It could be, watched on Hulu. Not to, knock those shows, because I do watch them, right? But, just thinking about that, you have to, think that the number one thing, because these are major networks, is profit.
Yeah, the goal is to create a show.
Mm-hmm.
You need your scares, you need your tantalizing whatever. Yeah. That's the goal.
Just have a PA just making noise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you watch Survivor Man's Bigfoot episodes, he actually talks about how he knows the crew on hunting Bigfoot, and he said that they do it all the time, but they don't tell the hosts, so they don't tell Bobo and them. They just have crew members out there, do stuff to mess with them.
Well, I was gonna say, because you watched Finding Bigfoot, what's the weirdest Bobo thing you could say that you saw? Just on a
Honestly,
wider note.
My favorite Bobo moment was when they were investigating a sighting somewhere in Georgia, I think. And the lady was talking about how she saw a Bigfoot climbed up a tree, it was up in a tree, and Bobo was when they got to the tree, they looked around, I can't remember the full context, but he was talking about the Sasquatch not being very intelligent. He's well, not every Sasquatch is a rocket scientist. I was
oh man, it's such a Bobo thing to do. I just can't get over the rave he did, the Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, I remember that episode.
I think that would that wouldn't attract people. That would scare off all the wildlife.
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
Make noise.
Yeah.
Feel a noise complaint.
Yeah,
Some
exactly.
people living there.
Yeah.
Oh man, it reminds me of because I'll just preface this because I just remember there was one time because we're talking about close calls. Do you remember when I think we were driving? We were driving to this location 4 years ago to film something, and someone got a military industrial laser pointer and just aimed it at the car.
So we were doing that 48-hour
48
challenge.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
That was the weirdest thing. Did you have any close calls or anything in terms of safety that you could talk about?
Yes, actually, I had a very close call. So I'm trying to think of how to set this up. All right, I think it was the second day. On the second day, we decided to go hike up this local creek,
Okay.
figuring that like the banks of the creek would be a good spot to find footprints.
Yeah.
And also, animals have to drink.
Yeah.
So there should be,
It's like, and it's damp too. It's like muddy.
Yeah, we figured there was a good chance of finding something there. We were right, but about maybe 3 hours into the hike or so, I felt nature calling. So
Okay.
I took off a good like 40 meters away from the group, and I went up this hill, up into the trees, and I did a safety check. I looked around, and
Mm-hmm.
I squatted to do a number 2.
Okay. I was gonna ask if it was 1 or 2.
It was unfortunately a number 2. And the moment that I dropped a deuce, the bushes about 30 feet away from me started shaking. There was this growling, like low roaring sound, and then just the sound of branches just shattering as like something just took off running. Almost at the same time, I heard my friend Matt, that was with the girls, start yelling, "Bear, bear, bear!" And one of the girls, I think, was like blowing a whistle to scare a bear away.
Oh, okay.
It ended up that there was 2 bears, and one was down where they were, and the other one was up 30 feet away from where I was dropping the deuce. And I didn't get the full thing on video.
Yeah.
But I started rolling like a few seconds afterwards.
With like a camera or something.
So we have that clip of me like slightly panicky.
Yeah.
But it also really, honestly, it served to highlight one of the common critiques about Sasquatch, where people are like, oh, if this animal is so big, then how is it like rarely ever seen? Like, how can't you go out there and find it? And it's like, dude, I was 30 feet away. I was taking a poop 30 feet away from like a 300-400 pound bear.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no clue it was there until it let itself be known that it was there.
Well, I was going to say too, like, people, okay, there's that like critique, how have we found it? But like, there's shit we haven't found in the world. And also, like, the woods or any sort of wilderness, it's big.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, there are, like, because I go hiking, I'm not, like, an extreme hiker. I consider myself, like, a moderate. But, like, there's, like, trails that you fucking can't go up. Like, it's, like, can't go up that trail, like, and it's just, like, closed off. And, like, I don't know, you could get, like, a rope and climb up there. But, like, wilderness and stuff, if anyone's, like, been out into wilderness or just, like, just in nature, like, it's big. And it's, like, it's unwielding. And there's, like, just stuff that, stuff that, like, blocks you out.
Yeah, people severely underestimate like just how wild this country still is. I think it's something like 48% of the U.S. is still uncivilized. Like, we're not even talking about small remote towns. We're talking about purely like just wild.
Yeah.
That's a significant amount of habitat.
Mm-hmm.
And even in areas that are civilized, there's still like areas that are thickly forested, and you can see maybe 20 feet. In forest that thick, and that's it, because there's so much foliage.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk about like, well, if Bigfoot's so big, like, why is it so hard to find? I have no issues with that. Like, I have plenty of experience, being out in the woods. Like, something could literally be 30 feet away from you that's 8 feet tall, and if it doesn't move, if it stands still, like it's commonly reported doing, like as soon as it's spotted, it's been reported that it will just stand stock still. And because of its fur, the color of its fur, and just the foliage, it becomes really difficult to spot it. I have no issues with that.
Yeah. Or like, like the bear that you just said, like you didn't know the bear was there.
I had no, and trust me, I checked. Like I carefully checked.
Yeah.
And that bear did the same thing that like people say Bigfoot does. As soon as it saw me coming, it froze in place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so let's go talk on that, because I've read like stories and stuff where when people like find themselves like in the presence of a Sasquatch, they kind of feel like if like the wilderness or something, like it stops moving, they feel like they're being watched.
Yes. We experienced that several times, actually. And so on the first night when we got there about like noonish or so, and we spent that first day just setting up camp. Maybe 2-3 hours after we got there, like right before dusk, everything just went quiet. Like the birds, everything. And we didn't notice until we actually stopped to listen. Everything went super quiet and nothing else happened. That was it. But then a few minutes later, everything kind of, came to life again. On the second night was when we started having activity around the camp. And again, everything went deathly quiet. Like the birds just stopped chirping.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't even any insects.
Yeah. And that's not like okay, that's like a paranormal thing. That's like a phenomenon just in like wildlife.
Yeah,
like,
if a large predator comes through an area, birds go silent.
Mm-hmm.
Like hunters know this.
Yeah.
Hunters absolutely know this. Like that's nothing weird or paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what they do in the presence of predators.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was also the second night we went. So our whole philosophy was we're not going to hunt Bigfoot. We'll hunt for evidence of Bigfoot, but this animal is far too elusive. It knows the woods way better than you do. It's going to hear you and see you coming way before you hear or see it.
It's home turf, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's its home turf. We're not going to hunt for Bigfoot. We're going to hunt for evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to encourage interaction with us. We try to do things to encourage it to approach our campsite, to approach wherever we were at.
Did you do the wood knocking?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And that had some interesting results for sure.
Mm. Can you describe what wood knocking is if anyone doesn't know?
So wood knocking is also very commonly reported. And what's interesting is that this behavior goes all the way back to the Native Americans who also reported it. And it's basically just the sound of like wood on wood, like something knocking a very big branch onto a tree trunk, creating that hollow kind of wood knocking sound. It's believed to be a communication technique to communicate long distances.
Mm-hmm.
People have wood knocked and they've gotten knocks back. Other people have just heard wood knocks from far away.
Yeah.
We tried the wood knocking technique as well. We didn't get a reply so much, but we did notice that the second night was when everything started heating up, and the second day was the last time we wood knocked on our camp because again we were trying to make it obvious we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, after the wood knocking at our camp and a few other things we did is when we started getting activity directly around the campsite, like right outside the edge of the tree line around our camp. What I was saying before, though, was on our second night, we went to this large field, and we had the girls go sit in the very middle of the field and talk loudly to make their presence known. And me and Matt, we hid. We just hid and watched with the night vision and the camera and stuff. And there was frogs kind of north of us, like maybe a few hundred yards north of us.
Like in a lake?
It wasn't a lake. It was literally just a bunch of like puddles.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And you heard them constantly going off. At one point, though, they went deathly silent. Like they just went quiet. And we thought, okay, maybe it's just because they ebb and flow with their croaks, For a solid like minute or so, they were deathly silent. So something was there. It could have been any large animal.
Yeah.
But what was strange was when we reviewed the footage afterwards, you can't hear the frogs go quiet because our mic just wasn't good enough.
Right.
But at the exact time that the frogs went quiet, there was this weird humming sound in the footage. Yeah, I don't know what it was, and it's not present in any of the other footage. Like it's just there, and it's just at the section where the frogs went quiet for us.
Interesting. Because I think I've like sent you like YouTube videos, just like of like hearing like the grunts or kind of like just when someone like captures like some sort of like evidence of like some sort of like large animal and they're making like grunts or they're like making their presence known.
Yeah, and those are exactly the sounds we were getting around our camp.
So I guess that goes into my next question because it's like, who knows, like, some listener could be listening to this, and this is just kind of like based off your own research. If they encountered like a Sasquatch, because you are encountering some sort of giant animal, it's bigger than you, more muscular than you. What should they do, like in your opinion? Like to not piss it off, because it's like, I think I've haven't they like thrown like logs or something or
Yeah, that's one of the other most commonly reported behaviors is they will throw large rocks or logs. And what's curious is that very rarely is there a report of them actually being thrown directly at people and hitting people, even though they obviously could.
yeah.
What is most commonly reported is that they'll throw rocks and sticks around you, almost as if they're trying to encourage you to move on, to like move away from where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they're clearly very powerful animals. Just like any wild animal, really, I would say avoid eye contact. Don't look it directly in the eyes because for most animals that's a challenge. Because it's so large. When I talked with the team, we're going to go by the bear philosophy.
Okay.
Black bears are small, so for a black bear, you run to a black bear, you want to make yourself big.
Yeah.
You want to be as big as you possibly can. If you're in a group, everyone group together so you look like a large animal or like there's a lot of you. And black bears will easily get scared off.
Yeah.
If you run into a grizzly bear, you want to do the opposite thing. You want to make sure the bear doesn't think you're a threat. So you don't look at it in the eyes, slowly back away. Don't run. With a Bigfoot, I would say the same thing. Like, don't look it in the eyes because you could be challenging it. Just slowly start backing away if you feel threatened. Don't run because run will trigger the predatory response in most animals.
Yeah.
But honestly, you hear so few reports of like directly hostile activity.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say, I don't want to like characterize Sasquatch as like a violent animal because they're not. I don't feel like they, I don't know, even bears, bears won't mess with you if you don't mess with them.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, and I kind of feel the same as like Sasquatch, yeah. But I just meant in terms of like just safety,
Yeah, I think that like grizzly bear safety tips I feel are probably pretty solid for running to a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
I did tell one of the girls when I was talking to her about coming on board, because she was like, "Oh, I don't think Sasquatch is threatening at all. I think they're perfectly peaceful." And I was like, "Yeah, but you realize we don't have the reports from the people that were killed by them."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, wait."
and then too, like a lot of people hunt in the wilderness, for better or worse. But some of those people they have guns, and that kind of looks threatening. Like a giant rifle looks like a tool of some kind.
Yeah, and what's interesting is. I'm telling you, I've listened and read thousands of reports in preparation for this, and we've done Bigfoot videos on the channel several times. There's a clear running theme where they tend to avoid people with guns. If they can see that someone has a rifle, they tend to avoid those people. They won't make themselves known. Or if they do accidentally run into each other, they'll immediately turn around and walk away. So one of the things that we did was we went out with a shotgun, for bear safety.
Yeah.
We left the shotgun at the camp. We carried sidearms, but we left the shotgun at the camp. We didn't ever want to let it be seen in case something was watching us. We wanted to encourage an interaction because, again, you're not going to hunt Bigfoot. The only thing you can do is encourage it to approach you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say just all the research. What can you say about any Native American sort of research that you did, or indigenous people, because they if you look at a lot of things how they cultivated the land in America, or how they used to handle fires when wildfires get out of control, what can you anything they're pretty knowledgeable,
Yeah.
they've been here longer than us,
Way longer.
Yeah. So what can you say about that and their outlook on Sasquatch and everything?
So in my research, what I found interesting is that there is an unbroken chain of belief in Sasquatch, or whatever each individual tribe calls it, that stretches almost completely from Florida all the way up to Alaska. So these people, all these different tribes, all had the same belief. What's also interesting is that in most of these tribes, they include Sasquatch under the category of real animals. They include it alongside bears and foxes and deer. They very clearly distinguish it from purely spiritual creatures like the Wendigo and other creatures that are just purely spirit.
Yeah, or like a skinwalker or something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
most of these tribes consider them real physical animals.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to native people nowadays, most of them, it's not even a question, that like this is a real animal. Like they acknowledge it. It's just a very rare, and it's an animal that's more intelligent than I think we're comfortable with. And
Yeah.
that's how it's able to remain,
Yeah, because it's like, like what kind of animal could like do wood knocking or like not hit someone with a rock intentionally?
Yeah, like choose to scare someone away rather than actually attack them. Like
Mm-hmm.
that requires a very specific choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm just like really fascinated, just kind of like what Native Americans think of Sasquatch because yeah, that is kind of in the mythology. But yeah, we're just kind of wrapping up here. Um, is there any last impression you would want to make on a listener that could be skeptical that they could get away from, they could get from the video, or just kind of like you can inform them of?
I would say first, first I want to highlight a personal story to show that the Sasquatch phenomenon is a lot more widespread than people think.
Hmm.
Like people think that they're rarely seen. People think that only kooks
Yeah,
see Sasquatch.
or like like kind of like country bumpkin hunters, or yeah,
Yeah, like people think it's a very rare phenomenon. I'm convinced it's absolutely not. People are just scared to come forward with their stories because of the ridicule.
yeah, yeah.
I volunteer, about twice a week or so, and at the place where I volunteer, they know the show I work for,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were talking about me going out to hunt Bigfoot,
Yeah.
and we were talking about it, and I was talking about it very seriously. I wasn't making jokes about it and stuff. And afterwards, I went outside, and one of the girls, she's an actress here in LA, so not someone prone to just, she comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, can I talk to you privately?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I had no idea what it was about. So she pulls me aside and she's like, "Hey, I'm only telling you this because, like, you weren't making fun of it. Like, you were talking about it, like, seriously."
Yeah.
And she proceeded to tell me about when she and her sister, they were both 18, and they saw a Sasquatch cross the road and stop right in front of them, like 10 feet from their car, somewhere in New Jersey in the middle of winter. Like there was a blizzard going on, and this
Mm-hmm.
animal stumbled out of the woods. She said that it looked like it was either drunk or like injured, and it stopped right in front of their car and then just ambled on, into the woods on the other side. And she's like, "I haven't told anyone about that because, like, people make fun of you." And here it goes to show that, like, this totally random person, that there's no reason for her to, make this up or whatever.
Yeah, just like bullshit you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a lot more people out there that have seen or had encounters, or have at least been exposed to the phenomenon than you think, but they're afraid of being ridiculed, and so they keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, like how do you like make that digestible for someone to like, like, hey, I saw this, like, they have no frame of reference, or they just don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody else hears them tell the story and they make fun of them, and I don't care. I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm very secure, so I didn't care about people knowing how I feel about this, and that turns out to be the type of courage other people need to come forward, and so that's great.
Yeah, hear more stories.
The second thing I would say to skeptics is, I totally understand why there's skepticism. I completely do. I would just say look more into the actual evidence. Again, you're having these tracks with morphological features of great ape being discovered all over the place. And what was really, like, the tracks that we found, what really, like, kind of stood out to us was just the depth of soil impression. You can't replicate that unless you've got hundreds and hundreds of pounds of pressure.
Yeah.
That really speaks to a very specific phenomenon. Something very, very heavy created this impression, and you can't get around that. You can't explain that away. You can't say, "Oh, it was a bear double stepping." Like, something with a human-shaped foot created these super deep impressions that we kept finding, and we just couldn't replicate.
Yeah.
Something was ripping down these giant, giant branches, and dragging them to places where we could not find the right species of tree to match the branch.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, the branches weren't being cut, they were being torn. And in our video, you can very clearly see that. Something was pushing over trees outside our campsite, and we have video of that, of us discovering the tree being pushed over.
The evidence, yeah. And like, yeah, I don't think you guys have like a chain or like a I don't know, any sort of like truck to like knock them over. You know?
No, and I'm sure it's totally possible to do it that way. But again, when you're finding this in thickly forested area, when you're finding tree structures in thickly forested areas, like it really begs the question of like, okay, this needs an explanation. You can no longer just discard it away as like ghosts, fairy tales, imps, elves, whatever. Like, no, we have enough evidence of physical phenomena that this needs to be explained one way or another.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe it's Bigfoot, okay, offer me a reasonable, naturalistic explanation that encompasses the entire phenomenon, not just individual pieces of it. Because you can find a good answer to the individual pieces of the Bigfoot phenomenon, but nothing that can put it all together.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like someone's own uncomfortableness with the subject that might lead to wrong conclusions.
Yeah, or just lead to not wanting to accept. I mean, we've seen that in politics. If someone's uncomfortable with the conclusion, then they just don't accept it.
Yeah, like someone think they lost the election, and But anyway, I agree with that thesis. That people need to just look at the evidence. So I'd really think that's a good note to end on. But just wrapping this up here, where can people find the video? Can you give us all the sort of plugs when this comes out? Yeah, just to.
So hopefully it'll be out this month, towards the end of this month, July.
Okay.
It's being animated as we speak because we do, all our videos are animation. This is the first video where we're combining animation with live footage. It's kind of a test bed. But you can find it on the Infographics Show on YouTube. You can probably find a tease for it coming out soon on like the Infographics Show's Instagram, and I think we have a TikTok.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we have a TikTok. They'll probably put, because we cut a little trailer. I think you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
We cut a little trailer of the episode.
Okay. I love TikTok, so.
I don't have TikTok.
Still in all my data, but
I'm not involved with Infographics TikTok.
Yeah, no, of course.
But yeah, just the main show on YouTube is where you'll be able to find the full episode, and then leave comment, send an angry email calling us hoaxers, like
something like that.
I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just trying to present what we found and asking the question, what did this?
Just the evidence.
Yep.
Yeah. So cool. I'm excited to check that out, and I'll be sure to put all the links to it down below in this video when it comes out. But thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guy. And listeners, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We've been Professionally Unprofessional.